Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country. All right, everyone, welcome to the Ready, Set, Hunt podcast. We're back coming at you live with another episode. And Chris, how's it over at your place? Is it cooled down like it has here ever since the last few days?
It's pretty warm. I did just realize I've had our walkie-talkie charging for quite a while, like days. And that means, for those of you who don't know, if you charge a battery longer, you can actually get longer battery life out of it. So this is probably going to be good for a couple months worth of use.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Nope, yeah, it's cooled down. It was like, I think it registered 97 the other day down here.
Yeah, but then with the heat index, because it was super humid too. I mean, it was easily in the hundreds. It was crazy. And whenever it's that hot, I just want to stay inside. But I
Not me.
didn't.
I
But I
I
didn't
mowed
stay
the lawn
inside.
with my brother. We went to my dad's house while he was gone, and he has a couple of mowers, so we broke them out and mowed the lawn for my mom.
Oh, what a good guy. I'm
It was
sure she was
epic.
very thankful. Um, so what are we talking about today, Chris? What's the topic at hand?
It's the off season.
It is
Couple
off
things
season.
couple of cool things happen in the off season. One, your body gets to heal if you put in some miles.
I would hope it's healed already, but
Two, you get to salivate and get googly eyes for items you don't have, such as new released firearms or bows or the latest hunting gear that you shouldn't be buying if you're as far in as we are on the investment. Uh, because in episodes past, we've talked about there's that threshold where you get to a place where you have usability of gear. You can not just get by, but you're in a good place with gear. So you don't really need, the word need is not a, no longer really comes into play. It's all about the wants, and that's a
once.
dangerous space. And then you reflect and look back on your last hunting season.
Mm-hmm.
You probably think about it a whole lot more if you've missed a trophy, uh, as many people after years of hunting will at times talk about, oh, there was that big one, it just got away. There's also the draw results, which we can talk about and go into in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That happens during the summer. Make sure you buy your points, before you get into that summer, because there's usually windows and cutoff dates. So that's a part of it as well. And looking at gear, I guess back to the gear conversation, you're assessing, cleaning up, refitting, uh, might do touch ups. You might be looking for an improvement or an addition to your boat or um, firearm or accessory or something like that. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Did I cover all the things that typically?
Yeah. I mean, basic summary. There's a couple other items, but yeah, we're talking about summer prep. I mean, it's at this point so right now we're recording. It's kind of end of June, moving into July. So unless you're doing some spring hunts, um, like turkey or bear or something, we're kind of moving into the time where you're about as far away from a hunting season as you possibly can be. Because I mean, hunting seasons, there are some that are going to open up middle of August in out west for a lot of those early archery seasons for like antelope and mule deer and stuff. But for the majority of people, I mean, there's a good 3 months before any seasons open for most people. And so the question is, like, what do you do in the off season? What do you do to stay sane? Because uh, for you and I mean, we just think about hunting constantly. It's like that's our life is family, faith, work, and hunting. So what do we do to fill our time and to scratch that itch for hunting? And it really has to do with for me, prep. Um, I probably do almost just as much work for hunting in the off season as I actually do during the hunting season. I don't know about you. Um,
I don't. I'm lazy.
uh,
I there's like a cool down period,
for sure.
especially if you've had a hard hunt season, right? A hard fall, or uh, I need to detox a little bit, and that's not from a lack of like passion. You just put a lot of effort into a hunt,
Yeah.
or a bigger hunt, or you've put some miles in. You've done a bunch of hunting. That doesn't mean I can't go out again or don't want to.
Right.
It's just like it's nice to be have a little bit of a lull and reflect,
Yeah.
but
I
you're
think it.
also
I was gonna
oh,
say.
go
I
ahead.
think it kind of depends on just like what your hunting season looks like. Like if you're a specialist or someone who really focuses on one type of hunting, I could definitely see where season comes to an end and you're like, oh man, it's over already. But like for us, for example, we hunt all sorts of stuff. And so essentially from the time that seasons open for us on September 1st until sometimes into early January, we're hunting pretty much all the time. Between all the different species and opportunities we have, so by the end of the season, you definitely are feeling a little worn down. And like for me personally, especially like when it's like switching between different types of hunting, it's kind of like I can only like take out and put away gear so many times, you know.
If I turned my camera around right now, which I won't because it's my computer, but you would see all my hunting gear is still just scattered around my office.
From the middle of May.
My sleeping bags are out. No, from our bear hunt
That's
here
what I mean,
in
middle of
this.
May.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And my wife's like, you have to clean your office, and I'm like, I know, but I'm also in my busy season of work, so
Mm-hmm.
I've had a reprieve from like I just don't have capacity right now for much else to occupy my thoughts.
Yeah,
Um, I am looking forward to next year. Like I said, we'll talk about draw results and different things here in a little bit, but you're the unpacking and packing is an endeavor. It's
seriously.
I to be fair, I do have my totes out where
Mm-hmm.
I have like my clothes, my gear tote, my secondary gear tote with gear I don't really use, and my clothes like all folded and everything's kind of there. I just haven't, I just
Yeah,
haven't had the uh, inspiration
I'm definitely
to put
more
anything else anywhere else.
I'm definitely more organized now than I've ever been in the past with my hunting gear. Like I've got a bin system because I've got this big divider shelf thing, and I've got like the milk crate, like the plastic milk crates or whatever. They're all labeled, and it's like, and it's different types of gear, camping, waterfowl, game processing, like all this random stuff. And I've got my little closet, my special closet for my hunting gear, and I've got a divider for folded clothes and everything. I got an area for my boots. So like it's really organized, but in the middle of the season, a lot of the time you're getting home late at night too. And it's like you bring your gear in, and the last thing I want to do is like make sure I put everything single thing back in the right bin, and hang my clothes up just perfect. And so usually by the end of the hunting season, my organization system is kind of a little bit of a hurricane blew through. Like nothing's in the correct bin, or like
Mm-hmm.
not really where they probably should be.
Especially after a hunt or like a wrapping up of a hunt where
Hmm.
we're out west and we have bins. Even if we go up north and we've brought extra bins because that's what we usually do. It's just nice to be able to, oh, I can shed this. I don't need this. I'm going to go lighter here or whatever. The bin becomes no longer organized. It's kind of a chuck bin.
It becomes a catch-all.
Yes. And that's great. And but there at first you don't realize it, but a day or two into doing that, you all of a sudden realize, oh, this is just all a mess and it's
Yep.
no longer organized.
Oh man. Yeah.
But
So
the
yeah, I
ideally having like a gun room or a safe room or a hunting room where you got like hangers for clothes, you got shelves, you got a bench, you got your safe, like all that type of setup, I think would be a very different game changer for me, because right now my current storage during like summer, I haven't gotten there yet, as we've alluded to, but is like shelves in the back of my basement, right?
Hmm.
And then I have my safe and stuff tucked away for my firearms, but that's not fun. Like, to me, I
Yeah.
don't like throwing it in the back and then having to like dig it out, even though it's organized. I, I'm just a guy that likes stuff out. Like, I like shelves and everything in like having spots. So
Hmm.
our boat is all organized, and it's got decoys, and you
Yeah,
know
it's got all this stuff in there. I've been
that
thinking
was
about
stored for winter, but
Yeah,
we're
I've
gonna
been
have to
thinking
get
about the
that
boat
out.
a lot lately because I've been doing like a little bit of like a mini video series on our TikTok about kind of our boat restoration
Hmm.
um, pathway. I think eventually we'll probably do like a video and release that on YouTube as well, kind of talking about that. And actually, I think we do want to. We've been talking about getting a slightly bigger boat and kind of going through that process again of buying a old Facebook special um, boat and rehabbing it and turning it into a duck boat. And it'll be a little bit bigger boat than what we currently have. Right now we have a 14 footer, and I think we were talking about getting like a 16 or maybe even an 18. Um, so that's
And
it.
a canoe in DNR purgatory, because
You
the
just have
DNR
to you
here.
just have to do your thing.
I don't know which direction to go to be nice right now, or to really dig, like, show my fangs. But man, really silly situation. Long story short, the canoe had a title process started in a sale, never completed. But
Years
the
and years
D
and years ago,
but the
right?
DNR has kept it open, so the process is open, but it's never been completed. But they won't let me. They won't just
Start
like
a new
let it
one,
disappear,
right?
or start a new one. So technically, it doesn't. The title doesn't exist for it. But in order for a
Ugh.
title to exist, it's so silly. It should just not exist, and I should just be able to do it myself. But
Just some good old bureaucracy about your Facebook Marketplace canoe.
it's gonna be
Gosh,
great.
government
I
just
mean,
getting their
the heart
hands in
for
the
those of you who
tiny
don't.
little things.
The context is we've been bringing our heavier current duck boat into some spots that you definitely need like three guys, if not four, to carry it in or
Hmm.
get it in. The
Places that are not really easily accessible by trailer, so you literally have to carry it in
And
to a
we know
spot.
that ducks will be landing and hanging out in these spots where there's not a lot of traffic, or any traffic for that matter, and we want to be able to get there. So I went out and grabbed a canoe, and it's going to be great. It's just not great yet.
Yep, and more summer prep. Just that's the thing about summer and the off season. It's the time that you do everything you need to do to get ready for the upcoming fall. And obviously, that's going to look different for everyone because everyone's fall hunt plans are different. Um, for me, I feel like I don't have there isn't enough time in the summer to get all the prep stuff done that I want to because I've had my hands in a lot of little things like um, one of the properties I hunt. I would like to do more like food plot stuff and some timber management and whatnot. But it's like it's hard when I've got three kids. I work a full time job. We do this podcast on the side for fun. This isn't like our main gig, and so we're doing this podcast too. And then I own some rental houses as well, so I manage those. And it's just there's so much going on that a lot of the time these hunting chores that you really have in the off season can kind of fall to the wayside. So I've been talking about doing stuff down at this property for like 3 years now, and I still haven't I still haven't really done it. Um, but I gotta say, one of the projects on my list, I really do actually have to get to it because I don't know if I told you this, Chris, but so I was out at this farm about 2 weeks ago. I was hanging I got a cellular trail camera. I've never had a cell cam before, but I got one.
You went and bought one.
I did.
You didn't even
Um,
text me about it.
there was
What
a
I've
father. There was a Father's
Wow.
Day sale Cabela's was having. They had it
Oh.
for $50 for a
Hmm.
cell cam. Pretty awesome.
What's the plan on that a month?
Well, there's like different plan levels. So I went the second plan because each plan level has a certain amount of images per month that you're allotted or whatever. So I think it's like $15 a month or something like that, which is like,
Hmm.
but you can turn it off whenever you want. So as soon as hunting season's done, I'll turn off the plan and then I won't be paying for it. But anyway, so I went out there and I just kind of did a little walk through the property just to check things out, see how things have changed and stuff. Just because, you know, a wood lot can change a lot in just a season. Well, one of my favorite stands. It's a double, like a 2-person ladder stand. A tree fell onto the stand, and so it is going to need to be retired because it is no longer safe. It The foot platform literally bent like this. The tree fell
Hmm.
perfectly on it, and then the ladders like kind of twisted a little bit, and so yeah, I got to go in there with a chainsaw, clean up some fallen trees, and put a new stand up in there. And so yeah, more projects to do. Um, but those are just some little things. But Chris, let's jump into like kind of the meat and potatoes of the discussion here, though. What are some things that pretty much everyone can focus on, no matter right now? Let's start with like general things that pretty much everyone's going to be doing, and then we can get to maybe some more specific stuff. So what are some general things that people should be focusing on in these season or this season or these months leading up to the hunting season?
Yeah, I mean, I probably outlined them a little bit in some of my comments, but just reflect on last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have an assessment of what went well, what didn't go well, what you liked, what you didn't like, including gear or where you hunted. Maybe you felt like you didn't scout enough. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
were just winging it and you were successful. Uh, Winging it and being successful is probably not a good recipe for uh, repetition unless
Yeah,
unless you're probably seasoned and know what you're looking for as far as like where to go to find your game.
I would say like in the case that you wing it and you find success, I think it's really important to take time and look back on that experience and maybe be like, why did that work? Maybe you don't know why it worked, and maybe you feel like I just got lucky. And
And I'm
that
not saying
and
like going out into an area where there's game, like, and for example, pushing pheasants out of like cattails
mm-hmm,
or where that there's pheasant activity. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
mm-hmm.
about like going to a piece of public you never were at before, and you have to do that at some point, but you just like
No
hiked a
plan.
hundred hiked
Yeah.
100 yards. A deer was standing out in the open. You shot it. And you're like, this is easy, or something like that. Like that's probably not going to happen all too often.
There is an aspect of luck in hunting that can
Mm,
certainly happen. So, but yeah, I mean, even in those situations, maybe analyze, be like, okay, I saw a deer here or I shot the deer here. Why was the deer there? What time of day was it? What time of year was it? What was around it? Was it
mhm.
when I saw it? Was it feeding or was it just traveling? All these things, all this information that you kind of reflect on, and then you can use that to maybe come up with a better plan for next
Yeah,
season.
because there's depending on where you're at with being your first time hunter. You just purchased a Ruger American or something pretty more entry level, and you just have a set of tops and bottoms as far as camo, and you went out hunting, and you have minimal to no knowledge about like deer movement, behavior, activity, all that to someone who's seasoned. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm saying there's reflection that always happens is probably where I'm going with this. And I would encourage you, if you are on the more entry side, to actually go read articles, read books about what animals do, why they do it,
Hmm.
behavior and um, where you're going, like what time of day they do it, where uh, they what they feed on, how much water do they intake, is their movement AM, PM, midday, based on weather. There's all these different patterns, just like humans, you and I. We typically wake up with the sun, and
Hmm.
we grab some food, and some people work out, or some people, and depending on your line of work, your behavior might be very different, and that's also different for game. That's also different for your region of game you're hunting.
Hmm.
So I just encourage you, if you're more on the brand new side, dig in during the summer
Yeah.
and try to learn more,
Yeah.
because
I mean,
that's what we're always trying to learn.
there's tons of resources out there. I mean, you can go on YouTube and you can go read articles online. But honestly, like the first time we went mule deer hunting, I think I read like two books about mule deer. Not even specific. I did read a book about mule deer hunting and like tactics, strategies, that kind of stuff. But I also read like a book about mule deer biology, just so I understood the animal. So it
Mm.
would give me an idea of where I should be, when, and really the reason why. I wanted to understand the quarry I was after, so I could just kind of understand its behavior. So if that's an option, I mean, yeah, you could maybe find something at your public library. Otherwise, you can usually find lots of books on Amazon. You can just look up and see, or Google, and you'll probably find some recommendations on different forums and stuff, like good duck hunting books or upland hunting books, this kind of all this kind of stuff, just to gain some more information. um, but then, so aside from the learning side, Chris, talk to me about maybe some gear maintenance, maybe things that people should be looking at in the off season. Let's say this is not your first time hunting. Let's say you did have a hunting season last year. What are some things that you should be doing and going through leading up to this year to make sure that you're prepared for the season?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to do your, for sure, firearm or bow maintenance, right?
Hmm.
You don't want to. Each season puts wear and tear. The elements put wear and tear on your firearm. So you want to clean that for sure,
Hmm.
especially if you've shot it. Like, obviously, you shoot your duck gun, your 12 or 20 gauge or something of that nature, way more than you're going to shoot a rifle at a deer. You shouldn't be shooting 100 shots at a deer. Um, and that just, barrel buildup with uh, sediment or anything like that. For sure, if you fell, like there's times where you might drop to a knee, you step in a hole or something like that,
Hmm.
and you're going to firearm training, make sure you're carrying your rifle or shotgun the right way. Um, but I've gotten snow in the top of my muzzle before. Like I might be carrying it pointed down, right? And
Yeah.
I step in a hole and the front of the muzzle. So like you
You watched
want
me.
that to
You've watched me
last.
fall over a log before when pheasant hunting. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Oh man, we were at my
I
uncle's and we
always
were.
remember the best of you, Peter.
Oh,
So I
that's
don't.
that's amazing. See, that's the kind of friend you need, is someone who just always remembers the highlights, the good things. No, we were pheasant. I remember you telling this story to someone. We were pheasant hunting one time. We were starting to walk through like some taller grass and kind of like like a cattail area, and there was like a log, like hidden, like a fallen log hidden in the middle of these cattails, and we were getting some taller stuff, so you were probably able to see like my shoulders up. And then you said you looked away for 1 second, and then you looked back over to see where I was, and you couldn't see me anywhere. And it was because I had tripped over this log and just fallen into the cattails. I just completely disappeared. So probably got a little bit of snow down my muzzle from that fall. But
Yeah, but you're gonna like you don't want moisture to sit on your firearm
yeah.
or your bow. Your strings wear out.
Hmm.
You want to wax those up, get a little bit of moisture
Look at
to
those
hold,
strings.
keep
Make
those
sure make sure there's
in
no
good
fray,
condition.
like big frays or anything. If
Hmm.
there's any fraying of your string, it's probably time for some new ones.
Yep.
And don't mess with it. Like, don't mess
Lather
with
up your
frayed
boots
strings.
if you have leather boots. You want to
Hmm.
keep those hydrated, right? You don't want them to start cracking and
Yeah. What do you
uh,
what do you what's your boot care process? Like, what do you do?
uh, I mean, I got my what is it, a crispy wax from
Hmm.
Crispy Boots, or maybe it's, I don't know, from Shields, but I do a total drench in that. Really rub it into the leather, work the leather. I take the shoelaces off,
Do you
which is
clean do you
annoying,
clean the
but
boots first before you apply the wax?
I mean, if it was dusty or something of that nature, but most of the time, the only time I ever like clean my boots is if I've been trouncing through mud
Hmm.
and there's a bunch of mud. dried mud on it or something like that, then I'm like, ah, this is annoying. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just always want to make sure that I get like an after season cleanup on the boots because they're just an investment.
Hmm.
And then before I go out, I always do a lather probably like 5 days ahead of time or a little bit more because that's a good water repellent as well. But other than that, your binos, your high dollar stuff, you just want to pay attention to it.
Yep. Just do a once over, make sure everything's working the way it should.
Hmm.
Um, how about how about clothing? Do you do anything special with your clothes before the season starts?
To be honest, I don't wash a lot of my stuff
Hmm.
often. Um, it just extends the life of it. And unless I've gotten really dirty or, I was gutting a deer and there's blood all over the front of my pants, to be honest, sometimes I just like leaving it because it's kind of a badge of
Badge of honor.
honor, I guess. Um, do you wash your stuff a lot or no?
Not a lot. I will usually do a I'll usually wash
For sure,
everything, at
cold
least
water.
everything that's been used. At least I'll wash everything that's been used during the season at the end of the season. Again, unless like it gets really dirty, it needs to be washed beforehand. But like I'm pretty particular about the stuff that I wash my clothes in, like the detergents, because a lot of this technical clothing has DWR coatings and stuff for water repellency. And so there's like specific wash or detergents that you can get for technical gear. And also like if I wash like a down jacket, I make sure I'm using like a down detergent, that kind of stuff. Just because again, I invested a lot of money in this gear and I wanna make sure that it's taken care of properly and that it works the best it can the following season. So I'll do that. And then yeah, I try and stay away from any detergent that has any like perfumes or fragrances. Stay scent free for the most part. And then also I try and stay away from anything that has like any UV brighteners and whatnot. Because I think there have been some studies that show that deer can see that.
Hmm.
Kind of makes you glow a little bit to a
Yeah.
deer's eye. I don't know if that's true, but that's
Have
just what
you
I've heard.
had, regarding your firearms, have you had anything that you've needed to like replace? Like, what have you found broken in the past or an issue with after a season? Anything?
Um, no, not really. I for my guns that are not Cerakoted, I will do like they're just like regular blued, like a blued barrel or whatever. I'll do a once over on those firearms, make sure there's not any rust spots kind of starting to form, and if there is, I'll buff that out and get it oiled up and everything. Just because, I mean, rust is
Most of the time, if you see rust, by the way, for those listening, it's surface
yeah,
rust.
it's
It's like
it's
very, very
superficial.
minimal. So you want to
Yeah.
buff that out and yeah, make sure the moisture again is not
Hmm.
sitting on
Don't
there.
don't take a fire if you've had one of your guns or your firearms out in the rain, like in a rainstorm. Don't just like get back to the truck and stick your wet firearm into a case and then just put it away. Like you're
Hmm.
asking for rust. So you got to open that up, let it air out, get it nice and dry before you store it. Um, but yeah, I've never really had any major issues with any firearms. But just I have had in one of my side by sides. I did have an action screw go missing once, or like come out and go missing. So I had to, and unfortunately, it's not a gun that's made anymore, and so I had to figure out the right screw size and replace that and everything. But
But
um,
that's a prime example. That's not something you necessarily would offhand notice, right? Like there's small screws in a
well,
lot of these things,
yeah,
especially your bow.
I noticed it because the mechanism in the gun, during a hunt, during a late season pheasant hunt, I could only shoot out of one barrel. Only one barrel was working. The other one, I would pull the trigger and it'd go click, and nothing would happen because that action screw is like integral to getting the firing pin cocked, and so it wasn't cocking. And so
Hmm.
essentially, I had a double barrel shotgun that became a single shot shotgun during a pheasant hunt. Not ideal. Still knocked down some birds, but not ideal.
That's
So
another thing is offhand, but that's another reason why I love having two different shotguns
mhm.
because I can always bring both of them, and
Yep.
like it's an 870 Remington 870 Express that I can have in the truck.
Yeah, in case
And
something happens, for
yep,
sure.
and that's a I know that's further down the line, right? I'm not telling anyone to go out and buy two shotguns, but
Hmm.
I had that one for years and it was always great. And I'm like, you know what? I want a semi-automatic now, and
But you
it's
got Old
worked out great.
Faithful. You got Old
But it,
Faithful as your
yeah,
backup.
it's she's great. She's great. But
Yeah. So there's a pro tip for you. If you're wanting another shotgun, go for it, and that way you can always have your backup in the truck, especially if you're bird hunting or something like that. It's
or
just
you're
ready to go.
bringing somebody along,
Yeah,
you have
that
an
too.
extra gun, so it's great.
Yep.
Um, you've had this experience many times: rips and tears. I feel like every season you get a rip or tear, and it's probably just because I'm much taller, like a giraffe, compared to you going over barbed wire fences.
Yep.
Um, talk to me about repairs or what you've done in those situations for that, because it's not. Is it just a sewing machine, or do you have other methods?
It depends on the piece of clothing. If it's something like a rain jacket, or it's something like a down jacket or something that is really thin material, you're probably not going to really be able to sew that very well. So, you can get these gear aid patches or whatever. It's just like a similar type of material that maybe your down jacket might be made out of, but then it has an adhesive backing, and so if you have a tear or a hole or something, then you can place that patch over that tear. So I've done that for down jackets. It's not very thick material, so it can snag on a briar or barbed wire, like Chris was saying, or if you're around a campfire or something, and the fire spits out some sparks, that spark can create a little hole in the jacket as well. So that's the easiest way to take care of that. It also works for like things like sleeping bags, holes in tents, that kind of stuff. Um, so it's good to do kind of a once over your clothing and just see if you have any holes that are going to cause any issues. For stuff that has like a thicker material, like pants or something like that, yeah, you can sew a patch, or you can sew you know close up a tear or something. um I'm very lucky in the fact that my mother is a seamstress, and so I am also able to sew. I actually do a lot of sewing for my job, so I am very capable at sewing. She's just better at it because she's been sewing forever. So usually, if I have a piece of clothing or a piece of gear or clothing that has a tear in it, I'll bring them to her, and she usually does a really good job of getting that patched up. So I've had a couple tears. I had a tear in a pair of pants from going over a barbed wire fence. I got a tear in a pair of gaiters from a piece of barbed wire that was sticking out of the ground randomly in the middle of a
Did you tear
field.
one of your bags?
No,
No. Hmm.
no, I didn't tear my bag. Um, but I did get a hole in one of my bags, but it was because you were shooting off my bag, and the blast from your gun burnt a hole in
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
also
repair that
had.
one.
Did you ever have a hole in your waders?
No, I did not have a hole in my
Oh,
waders, but that's also a very common problem that a lot of duck hunters run into. Um, so yeah, I just go over my clothes, make sure everything's in working order, and either fix it if I can fix it, or replace it if I have to replace it. Um, but yeah, I like to make sure my clothes are in good working order. Nothing sucks worse than like getting out into the field and then all of a sudden finding out either like a piece of gear you have is broken or not operating correctly, or
the
a piece
worst
of
is something that's leaky. Like I'm
yeah.
telling you, like your muck boots or waders.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always easy to tell ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but
Ooh, something came to mind because I don't think it's something that's on our outline that we're kind of going based off here, but if you have any battery operated gear, whether it's a rangefinder, or if you're using SIG's new awesome image stabilizing binos, or a headlamp, any number of things, if you're using something that takes batteries, double check, make sure the battery life is either good, or just to be safe, if it's not something that is a rechargeable thing, just replace the batteries. Just don't mess with it.
I
Um,
usually do that before the hunt. I never do it right after.
yeah, but just something to keep in mind for
Yeah,
prepping for next season. Just
for
replace your
sure.
batteries, make sure everything's good to go. Because I've had a headlamp die in the middle of a hunt at night, and that's not fun, especially if you're out west and you're navigating back to camp or something, and all of a sudden your headlamp dies and you can no longer see. And while we do have flashlights on our phones, they're nothing close to a good headlamp.
Summer's also great for getting out. Obviously, if you're a stand hunter, would have sat in that stand
Mm-hmm.
in the fall or leading up to like the new year, because a lot of seasons go to January. But getting out in the summer is checking straps, and you might have some growth around the foliage, right? So
Yeah.
you might want to clear out some branches and just get your setup uh, acclimated for next season, because some of those things can change, or maybe the tree has grown up over a couple of years now, and
Yeah.
it's pulled actually the deer stand up, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not seated well
Yeah, we've seen that.
against that tree. Yep. Mm-hmm.
What's nice about doing tree stand prep in the summertime rather than like closer to fall is like in June, July, it's the fullest the trees are ever going to be throughout the season. And so you're going to know like worst case scenario basically, where are my blind spots going to be, and so you can get up into the tree and you can trim or cut down any trees, maybe create shooting lanes, that kind of stuff. And to my example earlier, like I just discovered one of my tree stands got crushed by a fallen tree from a summer or from a spring storm. Um, you might have fallen trees, and or you might have a path that you take to get to your tree stand. It's not there anymore. It's completely overgrown. There's like all these things that you have time now in the summer to go check out and prepare, so that way when fall comes you're not scrambling and be like, oh no, where'd my trail go, or darn it, there's a tree on my tree stand,
Mm-hmm.
or a strap broke, all these things, because that can just ruin a hunt you know
Mm-hmm.
it can make you have to pivot and maybe go with a different plan that might not be ideal for the conditions that day. So by doing your prep ahead of time, you're really setting yourself up for the best opportunity and the most success.
Summer allows you to like also check, when you're going through your gear, or you're uh, reorganizing things, or even let's lead all the way into fall, like even prep. You're able to find expiration dates, right? Because not everything has a shelf life that
Mm-hmm.
is forever. Batteries are kind of like that. There might be some. Let's say you carry aspirin, or there are some things that do expire. Um,
My bear spray, my can of bear spray expires the end of this year.
oh,
Not
does
that
it?
I'm not hunting in any bear country this year, but so
You should
I'll
just
have to
keep it
check
on
it.
you until you use it someday. Like never replace it and see if it's still potent.
I might just test it. We'll see if it's still potent.
Find a cat crossing your yard. It's terrible. Uh, yeah. Do
do we
you
want to
have?
say? Do we want to talk about like e-scouting prep, since
That's where I was kind of gonna go.
yeah, man,
E-scouting is always very. I want to use the word interesting,
yeah,
because for our experience thus far, I don't know if we are at the level of proficiency that we want to be
in terms of e-scouting, you mean?
to be able to look at, topography in a map, and we understand what we're looking at, but the maps at times can be off or outdated. The growth can be different. So that's not like, you can't fault yourself for that or the time spent doing that. But as far as where we've kind of thrown the dart, and we're like, this looks like a really good spot, and we do a lot of work and prep on that, we've shown up, and the topography is much more formidable
Yeah,
uh, than we expected. So there's an element of that I'm starting to entertain. Should there be a pre like a scout trip? Um,
For certain hunts that might not I mean that would probably be very beneficial, and people will tell you like there's no replacing boots on the ground scouting. And
yep.
maybe someday, especially if it's like a tag that I draw that's like a really hard to draw tag, I might do that. It might be worth it because it's like if this is a tag you can only draw once every 10 years or something like that, then it's like I'm willing to put a little more work in on the front end on this one. But a
Well,
lot of these general tags that we've been drawing the past few years, it's like, I mean, you could go out
there's a
and
learning
scout,
curve
but
too.
yeah.
We'd never been out to a lot of these areas, and after you
Mm-hmm.
get your eyes and seasons under your belt on these areas, you're able to branch out from there and
Mm-hmm.
look a little bit further. But yeah, there's definitely no substitute for getting out and putting your boots on the ground. So, but that's not to say don't e-scout, right? You
Right.
should be keeping up to date on burn areas for one,
Mm-hmm. Timber
or
cuts.
yep, you should be checking uh, population volumes, like
Yep.
where are those levels coming in? What has the local game warden or the state been releasing? What's the
Mm-hmm.
migration going to be like?
Did they
What's
have
the
a hard? Did they have a hard winter? Did
yep,
they have a big die off? Or have boundary lines changed? Because
yep,
that happens.
all that's in there. So
Yeah.
um, that's a good use of time. It's fun
Mm-hmm.
because you're starting to build an expectancy and an anticipation for next season,
Yep.
um, which kind of leads us into the draw conversation if we want to go there.
Yeah. Summer is usually like spring, some spring, but a lot of summer is when you're finding out whether you drew if you're applying some of these western states, for different species. uh I mean, you remember the feeling growing up on Christmas morning. There's just so much anticipation, and you wake up in the morning and you're laying in your bed and you're just like, oh, it's here, and you just know that there's a gift waiting for you under the tree. For me, some of that awe and wonder has gone away for Christmas because you're an adult now and it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
But now that feeling has been replaced with days that I know draw results come out. Which for some people you might have a gift under the tree, and then for some people you might have a lump of coal in your stocking, which means you didn't draw anything. But this year, uh, it was like Christmas morning, and there were some gifts under the tree, for us for the fall. Um, and so I'm so excited. We drew we drew some tags that were like a complete dart throw. I mean, they're a random draw tag, um, and the Go Hunt, which is a service we use for their draw odds, predictions and their application services and everything, gave a 2.5% chance to draw this tag. And we just decided, you know what, we're going to be we essentially we knew we had enough points to hunt mule deer for this area. But then the antelope tag for this unit was completely random chance. So we're like, well, might as well just put in for it and maybe we'll get lucky,
Because we applied as a group for our deer tags,
our deer tags.
and
Yes.
then the setup for the antelope tags were individual, so we all applied individually.
Yep.
Which
And
which we did the first year we went out to Wyoming,
yep.
and
And
I drew two of them.
you drew two tags and then I didn't draw any. So this year, but the year you did that and drew those tags, your odds were like, it was like somewhere like 45% or something like that.
Yeah,
45% chance to draw these tags. So we all went in with 2.5% odds. I essentially traded it as, well, the state's going to send me back my money for the tags I didn't draw, just essentially accepting the fact that we're going to draw these tags. So all of us applied for this super low odds tag, which is, what's the funny thing is like we're putting more of our names in the hats, but we're actually making the odds worse for each other by all applying for these tags. But anyway, so there's three of us in our
in
hunting
hindsight,
group.
we could have applied as a group.
I mean, maybe. Anyway, so there are three of us that drew deer tags in our hunting group, and we all applied for these antelope tags. Two of us drew the antelope tag, and not only did we draw one antelope tag per person, we drew two antelope tags for the two guys that drew. So we drew four antelope tags for this unit, and
And 3 deer tags.
and three deer tags. So we have 7 tags this fall in this western state. And I did some deeper digging because I was like, how did we draw? This is incredible. I can't believe it. It only got better because I learned that there are only 25 of these tags available in this unit, and we drew 4 of them. I did a little even more digging and learned that this state or this unit, they that 20 of the 25 tags are allotted to resident hunters, and that 5 tags are allotted to non-residents, and we drew 4 of them. I,
I
I
mean,
almost felt I
you should go
almost
out and
felt
buy a
guilty.
lottery ticket like right now
Yeah, that's kind of how
because
I'm
it's
feeling.
bonkers.
I almost feel guilty about it, but at the same time, I kind of want to meet the one other non-resident guy hunter that's going to be hunting that unit at the same time. So anyway, we set ourselves up for a super fun fall, and that's in addition to the hunting we get to do here back home in Minnesota.
I
But
think from a summer prep standpoint as well, because when we gleefully speak about our upcoming hunt and having 7 tags, we can not focus on the gear now. We can focus on the meat prep. So like
mm-hmm,
grinders and packaging. And it's weird because we've never we haven't had a prevalence on that in years past up to this point. We've been talking about, hey, we want to start processing our own meat. Hey, we want to do it ourselves. We want to, have a day tacked on to our hunting, whatever it is, 7 days, if we're going out for 7 days or something like that. But tack on that extra day. We're not working. We're all hanging out in the garage, have a football game on,
mm-hmm.
just hanging out with the guys, uh,
Cutting up
packaging
meat,
up. Yep, cutting up meat.
packaging, grinding, making sausage, all
Kids
that
are
kind of
playing
stuff.
in the back, or wives are hanging out. But um, what's really meaningful about it is with the 7 tags that we look forward to, usually if you have an elk tag, that's a ton of meat as well. But we want to put meat in the fridge. We want to source that, freeze it, and have food all year long.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest reason I think now why we do this, besides the excitement and the adventure and the bonding.
Yep.
Um,
The antlers are fun too, but you can't eat those.
yep, squirrels
they
can, but
they do look really good on your wall though. So
they look great on
um,
the wall.
yeah. So
By the
but
way, our buddy, did you see our buddy's post? I won't name him at this time, but you see he got his mount back.
yeah, I saw it. It's
Yeah,
huge.
it was real
It's really
nice.
nice.
It was real nice.
Really nice. But with this tag conversation, and when you get your draw results back, that informs kind of the prep that we're going to be doing this summer.
Mhm.
Especially when it comes to e-scouting, logistics, that kind of stuff. Maybe making phone calls to biologists or wardens. Now, the benefit we have this fall is we're going back to an area we've hunted before,
Mhm.
so we're very familiar with it. We already kind of have a game plan based off of, like we mentioned earlier, based off of the intel and what we learned on the hunt last time. And the last time we were out there, we had a very successful hunt. We filled 3 out of 4 tags. So I
Oh,
think
continue. I have one more thought after that.
I was going to say I feel like the anticipation for this year is, we're so excited and we're looking forward to it so much because we know we're not going in completely blind. We know where to find deer. We know where to find antelope. We know exactly what we need to do to find success. But what we're doing now is we're trying to fine tune it even more and waste less time because, again, we've been there. We're not going in completely
Mm.
blind. There's not going to be as much of a having to figure the place out because we've already kind of done that work a couple of years ago. So,
Yeah, and back to piggyback off of just the hunt itself, but drawing those tags, make sure you're buying your points,
mm-hmm,
because we apply as a group. Peter and I are investing and make sure that we get our points in at the right times before deadlines, so that when it comes back around to draw time, we're operating on the same amount of points, so we can apply as a group and our odds don't decrease. Because obviously, you can, if you don't know, you can carry a person with you that may not have any points, but if you have enough points, it averages out. Your your draw odds stay up, but also you might be kicked to a lower percentage that is going to really hinder those results, and you might end up not drawing at all, which we had one of our best guys uh, miss grabbing a point
last year.
last year. So when it came time to jump into the group and get all that situated, he's like, I'm down. And then we calculate it out and look at the statistics of where that's going to end up if he applies with us. The benefit is if he applies with us in the group and we draw, then we all draw. But also, if somebody's jumping in, it might pull you down, and you might
Yep.
not all draw. You might
Hmm.
none of you will draw in that group. So
Whereas
we
uh,
lost him this year because
yeah,
he did
whereas
apply
some of us had
solo.
enough points where we would have been guaranteed a tag essentially
Hmm.
based off of draw odds and everything,
Yep.
but because he didn't have a point, it would have dragged us down just enough that there's a very good chance that we would have missed it. So
Yeah.
we decided to have three of us apply as a group because we all had the same point total, and then have him apply separate, hoping to draw and to get lucky essentially and draw a tag with 0 points. And unfortunately, he did not draw, and so he's decided. Well, we'll see. I have a feeling he's probably sitting this one out. I don't think he's going to come out with us just because he lives even further away than we do. So it's a little more um, laborious. Is that even a word? It takes a lot
Laborious.
laborious. It takes a lot more for him to get out west than for us. But um,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, buy your points. Make sure if there are states that you want to hunt in, and this is again specifically for Western hunting, or unless you want to hunt like whitetails in Iowa or something, because they have a point system there for non-residents as well. But yeah, if you're wanting to hunt out west, you need to know your point systems, and you need to know when those deadlines are, because missing even 1 year can set you back like in a big way, and can
Hmm.
completely change your hunt plans for like the next several years. Because if you want to hunt out west on any consistent basis, you need to have a plan.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what
The
we've
nice
done.
thing
We've
is that's how we position ourselves. We're looking at where can we buy all these points in different states,
Mhm.
and then we want to focus on plan A for the draw. And if that doesn't work out, then it's plan B. Um, we're calculating those statistics to figure out how much of a guarantee can we make our schedule look like what we want it to versus going into every draw everywhere, which you could do. You can put it in all these places with nothing,
So much money.
and it's a ton of money.
Yeah.
Um, so it's nice to be able to have 3 years out,
Yeah.
5 years
We've
out.
we've we've set ourselves up in a way that we know we can draw a tag out west every single year.
Mhm. And
We
the
might.
idea is just to do one tag every single year out west
Mhm.
because it just gets time commitment beyond that um, is
I would say the
tough.
biggest thing's got
But
to be time, because it takes us a day, basically a full day of travel out there, and then a full day of travel back, if you're driving, and
until we get our airplane,
until we get an airplane. Yeah.
it's
So
going to
anyway,
happen. I'm speaking it into existence.
so buy your tags. Once you draw, it's like Christmas morning. You start looking at maps, and use the summer, take time to really pour over maps. Don't just look at the maps like once or twice and be like, yeah, I feel like I get it. No, really, really study these maps. Use the tools that are available to you on Onyx or Go Hunt or any of these mapping platforms. Use 3D. Get an idea of what the topography is like. Figure out where water sources are. Like all these super important
Also,
things.
from like we're speaking a lot about out west from the standpoint because we are in Minnesota and we're looking west,
Mm-hmm.
but you could be anywhere around the country, and Idaho might be your backyard. So the point that I'm trying to make is in Minnesota, you can go locally to your WMA area. You can check out different public access points when you're driving home from work, like detour 35 minutes and go check something out. Like
Yep.
it's worth it because you might find something that not a lot of people traffic. You might be looking on e-scouting and get there the duck opener in the morning, and there's 20 trucks there,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
a real
that is
thing.
a thing. That is a real thing. So uh, being able to understand, especially when it becomes like for migratory animals, birds, waterfowl stuff, you want to get a good read on kind of a plan. The
Hmm.
night before is not a good,
No,
typically a great plan at all.
no, I mean throughout the summer, especially later in the summer as we're getting closer to waterfowl season, I'll start pouring over maps locally, looking at be like, oh, that's a slough that I could access, or that's a body of water we could access with our boat or whatever. And then, if it looks good from what you can tell on a map, then sometimes the best thing to do is just drive down there or drive over there and see what it's like in person, and then you'll get an idea of, is this doable for me in my current setup, what I have, or is this not going to be any good? And obviously, closer to city centers you are, typically the more pressure a piece of public land or whatever you're hunting is going to receive. But yeah, you can usually get a pretty good idea just by kind of checking the spot out. So we've acquired several spots that we've hunted over the past few years, by doing just that, just driving, checking them out, and being like, yeah, I saw some ducks there. Now, does that mean there's going to be ducks there on the morning you go? Not
One
necessarily.
of our favorite spots was not bone dry, but it was the water level was so low it was just muck. There
Yep.
was like no water,
And
just
it turned
straight
out to
mud.
be one of the best hunts we've ever had.
No, I'm talking about this last year.
Oh, this last year.
Remember, there was no water in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was
We
really
had to
really
pivot.
dry this last
Yeah, it was
year.
super dry. So the year before that, it had low water level, and it was great for that early teal. And it was super fun.
Hmm.
Um, but you don't want to show up that morning, hike out in the dark, get out to the into the water only to realize it's muck,
Yeah,
and
really.
now
There's no surface water.
you're literally committed to nothing. You've
Hmm.
just committed yourself. So you got to put eyeballs on stuff. Um, Also, you can typically buy licenses early if you're local for the year, for the fall. Uh, Look at statutory changes, right? So they're eventually going to get the manual out for your state, and it's going to say, hey, these are the regulations. Make sure you abide by them and know any updates.
Yep. Because
And
those things do change. Like even just the past like 2 or 3 years in Minnesota, we've had some changes,
mhm.
to certain things that could potentially change the way you hunt.
Yep.
Um, so it's good to be familiar with those things and check them out as soon as those regulations come out. Um, I I think, Chris, you just go to like Fleet Farm or something and buy your licenses, right?
There's been years where I've walked in there and been like, I need every license.
Everything
Like
you
I'll buy
have,
my turkey, I'll buy my pheasant, I'll buy uh I can't remember right now. Is there a dove? It's just
deer,
small game. It's just small game.
waterfowl, all
It's
that
all of
stuff.
that. And
Yeah.
then I have like the longest it's like the 50-year-old dad who opens his wallet and all the pictures of his kids fall out, except it's like all my tags. Because I think it's kind of fun not separating them.
It's like
But
a receipt at Menards. Menards
yeah,
has like the longest receipts.
it's fun.
um,
But yeah,
I've
get it.
uh, I've made a. It's kind of become a bit of a, um, I don't know, a new tradition for me that, I will buy my hunting licenses at the Minnesota State Fair almost every year, because they have a DNR building and they sell hunting and fishing licenses there, and it's like, late August, and it's shortly before
Is that
season, and
cheaper there or no?
no, it's all the same. It's always the
Oh,
same price. It's just
I wish it was like $5 cheaper or something.
that'd be great, but no, I mean, it's the same, but it's just like it's this weird thing. It's like I always plan on buying all my hunting licenses at the state fair. It's just kind of fun. I don't know, really random fact. But you were about to jump into something else, so
Well, I was just gonna say if you want to go do some trap shooting, or summer's a great time to work on your long range, your waterfowl, tracking, whatever you're doing. If you're getting a dog, get out and you know get some activity in with your dog because you don't want to. We've been on some hunts with bless their heart, a dog that is challenged and underused, and I've also been out on hunts where the dog is dynamite. So
Yep.
there's a difference. Practice makes close to perfect, if not perfect.
Yeah, if you're shooting a rifle, get out there, practice at distances you'll be hunting at, and practice at distances further than you'll be hunting at. Um, just get proficient with your tool, and same with archery. Like, guys, you got to practice. You can't just get out there and be like, oh, I haven't shot since November or October or whatever, but I'm still good. Like, yeah, you could probably hit the target at 20 and 30, but like, you owe it to the animal to be very proficient with your tool. And believe me, those muscles that you're used to, especially with archery, those muscles that you're used to using or that you use for shooting a bow, they go away pretty quick.
Yes, they do.
And you'll notice a big difference. So just get those reps in. I've been shooting my bow almost every day. And
I
it's
haven't.
I know, but
I
it's
haven't
just
gotten there yet.
but
Again, I'm
it's
in my busy time of work, so it's all I'm doing.
yeah.
All I'm doing. But I could.
I'm dude. I'm literally only shooting like 5 to 10 arrows
I
a
know.
day.
I
You
to
know,
be honest, I could. I could pull out my bow and shoot it at like lunchtime or something like that. So there's no excuse. It's just
just keep your target
yeah.
set up in your yard, and then just have your bow hanging somewhere.
There's a daycare. There's a
Ah,
daycare. So
yeah,
I don't think slinging arrows off my deck is going to be looked upon kindly.
yeah, that's very true. Yeah, maybe don't get arrested. Um, Summer prep tip: don't get arrested. Um, Chris, let's talk a little bit about physical fitness.
You want to talk about yours or mine?
Well, why don't you talk about yours first, and then I'll talk about mine.
I got those ostrich legs, baby.
Uh,
And no, I've I'm dealing with a unique space in my life because I'm about to turn 40,
mm-hmm,
and I've always been. I'm not. This is not a brag. I've just always been proficiently like capable, and that's not just like athletically, but in a lot of areas of my life, and that breeds a personal challenge of commitment. I'm not like as committed where I can, I used to be able to get out on the basketball court, barely stretch, and jump out of the gym and run all day long and not be tired or winded. Now, not so much. But I can still like as if my feet were okay, like on our bear hunt here, if I didn't get blisters in the back, like I'm typically pretty good.
mm-hmm.
That's just how I'm like geared. That's just me. I'm lean and I take a lot less steps than you. uh but on the other hand, there's guys out there like you, and I would choose your way if I had more commitment in me. Uh you run marathons. You're probably working out every day or every other day or something of that nature. There's seasons I've done things like that. I got to say it's not as big of a value to me.
Mm-hmm.
It is personally in the soul. I'm like, no, it's a huge value. I value that a ton. But from a practical application standpoint, I don't, because I just don't do that. I get distracted, or, work days go long and then I'm tired and I don't get a workout in or whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, I
you
mean,
should understand your own level of fitness.
mm-hmm.
You should understand how much water you're intaking for one, because like you should have good hydration, especially leading up to hunts if you're going to be moving or running. But do you disagree with any of that, or what are your kind of thoughts on that space?
My thoughts are, and we've talked about this with each other in the past. I think there is space for everyone to probably improve their
Which I agree
fitness in a
with, by the
way.
way.
Um, like for me personally, yeah, like Chris and I are very different builds. Like Chris, long and lanky. I'm not. I'm shorter, definitely shorter than Chris. I'm very average height wise. I'm like 5'10", so I'm not like super tall. I'm not super short, but I have short legs and a long torso. So for me, I have to like Chris said, I have to take a lot more steps than he does. But I am, since I'm more of a stocky build, like I can carry heavy pack just fine. But I do need to work out to stay in shape. And everyone's different. Everyone has a different metabolism. But to me, like if
My
you
weight
want,
hasn't. My weight has changed. I think 4 pounds. Maybe. Well, my weight has maybe changed 7 pounds since graduating high school.
yeah, that's crazy.
When I've worked out consistently and like ate Chipotle every day, a couple protein shakes, I'm like actually committed. I've been as high as I think 17 more pounds. But
yeah.
for those, the amount, it's like probably the opposite for people trying to lose weight. I have to literally eat myself out of the kitchen. Like I have to
Hmm.
pack and pack. And I'm like, this is so exhausting. This is so much time. So I understand it from a weight loss standpoint and a weight gain standpoint. I just don't know if I can sustain that. Like my body just processes everything it goes in, and it's like whoop, noodle. Like I'm tall and lanky, so
Yeah. Um, I mean, I definitely go through seasons where I work out more, and then there's seasons where I work out less. I'm moving into a season right now where I'm starting to ramp back up into my workouts just because I had a really, really busy spring. I worked out leading up to our bear hunt in Montana, went to Montana, and then after we got back, didn't, I barely worked out for, up until now. So it's been about a month and I'm starting to ramp back up. But in the off season, especially in the summer, depending on what my hunt schedule looks like, but typically we've been going out west every fall, so I start ramping up because I want to make sure that my fitness is not going to be a liability to the group, but also it's not going to be a liability to my success because I don't want my physical ability to be the limiting factor. I would much rather be in a situation where like I worked my butt off for any opportunity I had rather than be like I didn't get any opportunities because I didn't work hard enough physically to get there. Um,
this last bear trip was the first time you or I had a physical holdback, right? Because of my ankles or my heels. Would you say
mhm.
that's accurate?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate.
And that bothered me. By the way.
Yeah, well, and that kind of goes to gear. That's another conversation, and maybe
Yeah.
it's finding the right boots. But
But you and I've
um,
always been like on all of our hunts, we've never had like a physical wall that was holding us back or costing us. Do you
physical,
recall any?
no, I mean, I think it can be kind of hard to define though. Like we've never been to a point where it's like
It's costing us time.
I can't physically do it. I physically can't make it. Like my body's going to shut down. But I think there's been moments where it's more so mental where you're like, that was a lot of work. I don't know if it's worth it to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not necessarily speaking about that. I'm more asking
from
like
a like an energy output standpoint. You know.
like this bear hunt was the closest thing to too physically challenging. But again, I couldn't use like half my leg muscles because I was not to stay in like the blister space, but because I couldn't use like the way your foot naturally pushes when you're going inclined, right? You
Hmm.
want to raise your heel up to get that, and I just couldn't do that. So I
Right.
was using literally my whole leg in a different way.
Hmm.
But being out in like Wyoming or Montana or anywhere in Minnesota and Nebraska, the places that you and I have been, we've never been hiking to an area or going into someplace and going, hey, we need to really like just slow down and we couldn't make it before sunset or to a certain point in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I truly feel that the only times I've felt limited have not been by my fitness because I prepare pretty hard for that. It's honestly been more so situations like blisters, like
Mm-hmm.
things that like my gear is not performing in the way I want it to, or it had, or I was expecting it to. Like I have this physical limitation from the fact that the skin is being rubbed off my heels, not
Mm-hmm.
so much like my muscles can't carry me there.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you literally just push through the pain, and you're like, this is gonna suck. I'll just deal with it later. Um, but yeah, but from a physical
I'd also
fitness,
been under the weather for like a good amount before the
yeah,
bear hunt too. So
that
there
didn't
was
help.
that
Yeah.
didn't help. But I like we hiked that mountain. It was difficult. I don't know. That probably wraps up a lot of the general summer stuff.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the biggest thing is just think about your upcoming season. What are you doing? Where are you going? What isn't clear to you? Like, and then make plans to make things become clear, and do everything you absolutely can on the front end to guarantee, or not guarantee, but to increase your odds of success, because preparation is truly the best way for you to fill a tag, or for you to, you know, maybe meet the expectations of your hunt. um, there's no reason to, I think for me, there's been moments where I've looked back on a hunt that didn't go the way I anticipated or the way I had hoped, and I often wonder if I had maybe prepped a little different, or maybe given a little more time to something on the front end, would I have had different outcomes after? And that's not like a really fun feeling. It's not fun leaving a hunt thinking I could have done more and I wouldn't be feeling this right now. And not to say that failure in and of itself doesn't have value, because it absolutely does. We've talked about that a lot. You learn from your failures, but success is even more fun, you know. And there are
Mhm.
things you can do to increase your overall odds. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, any parting wisdom, Chris, before we wrap this up? No, none. He's
I'm
got
shaking my
nothing.
head no. I was like thinking like, no,
He's got nothing.
no.
All right. Well, anyway, um, thank you guys for joining us. Just want to remind you, if you could, something that would really help us out is if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, follow this podcast. Give us a 5-star rating if you enjoy what you hear. But something else that really helps out is actually if you leave like a written review that does something to the algorithm, where it gets this podcast out there more. So if you could just do us a solid, give us a 5-star rating, leave us a review. That would be amazing. Also, subscribe to our socials. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, and we also have a YouTube channel. So you may be watching this right now in video format on YouTube, which is super fun. But if you're just listening audio only, we do have a YouTube where you can watch these podcasts as well, and we will have additional content coming out as well. Kind of like I mentioned before about boat rehab. That probably isn't going to be this summer, but maybe next summer. But we have some other fun stuff planned, maybe some gear reviews and whatnot. So it'd be awesome for you to join us, join the Ready Set Hunt community, and I'll give you one last chance, Chris. Any parting thoughts?
Stay cool and happy 4th of July.
That's right. Happy 4th. Thanks, everyone.